Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
Yes!
Dad, I'm hungry.
G'day humans, Chris Dead from Finder here. I'm on the road today. I'm at Fraser Island. And I'm going to take you through the top things to do as a family while you're on Fraser Island here with the tribe, all 3 kids, 10, 8, 6, my wife, 4-wheel drive, some mates. We're checking out everything there is to see on Fraser Island. Let's go have a look. Alright, well before we get started, let me just apologise for the name I used at the start of this video. It was Fraser Island when I was there, it's now Gari, and I'm all for that. So the intro's a little out of date, but everything else is gold, trust me. Now we spent 11 days on the island over the Easter period, and there was 5 kids with us between 2 families. And yeah, let's start in the obvious place. So Lake Mckenzie is a bit of a no-brainer. Obviously it's kind of like, I guess, the one you would have seen in all the pictures and postcards, but it really is a truly incredible paradise. There's lots of space on lots of sand. It's just incredible for the kids, as you can see. It's quite shallow all the way out, and you can even see that little kind of like, it looks like an island. It's not quite, but in the distance there. There's a little bit of a kind of gully there that they can swim across, but it's still pretty safe to go out in floats and so forth. Obviously, if you're not a good swimmer, you shouldn't go too deep, but it's a long, shallow area, a long beach, as you can see there, and we had an absolute ball. Now they're asking not to eat at the beach because of the wildlife concerns, mostly around dingoes. But you can go up near the parking lot. They've got like a fenced off area where you can go and eat anything you want to bring with you. And you can see the water's so clear. It's like really, it really is quite magical. It can get a little breezy because there's quite a stretch of water there for the water to come across, for the wind to come across from the south. But it's nothing that's going to put you off having a good time, even if it's a bit cloudy. And it's very central, especially if you're staying at Central Station. So you'll go past this quite a few times as you're kind of coming in and out from various other places on the island. Dropping by Lake Mckenzie for a swim is always an option. And we ended up doing it quite a number of times during our 11 days. I think we might have gone 4 times at least to Lake Mckenzie. You can walk around the lake. So I did actually do a little bit of a walk as far as you can see there. I went to the opposite side, just walked around through the reeds and just looked at the crabs and everything. And I did see some people even scuba diving in there as well. We can see a plane. There's an airstrip right next to here, which is Eli Beach, or sorry, Eli Creek. So this is an awesome place to set up for the day. As you can see, people have done here. It's this river that kind of comes out of this gully and it comes down to the beach. It's about knee to waist deep, so it's perfectly safe for pretty much all age groups. You can kind of just float down the river nice and slowly. It's definitely not thrilling. I'm not sure what it's like if you get there just after some serious rain, but I think most of the time it's pretty much just this lightly flowing creek, so it's a bit of an adventure. The inflatables are obviously very handy, so make sure you've got those going on. There was a lot of kind of ball sports going on as well in the actual creek. And you can see that sign there points to dingoes in the area. Now those signs are all over Gari Island, but we only saw dingoes in a few places, but this was one of them. So there definitely are dingoes hanging around out the side of the cars. In fact, that dingo that I showed in the intro to this video was actually shot just on the edge of those cars that they're there. But here you can see the river coming through. So they've done a really good job building this kind of walkway, so you can kind of walk all the way to a jump-in spot without, you know, crushing any of the vegetation or having to battle through spiders and snakes. And even on a day like this, so this is a few days before Easter when we were here, and it's a busy time of year. It's still, and it's autumn. It was still warm enough for, as you can see, everyone to be walking around in costumes and hanging out, and it's not too busy to make it uncool. And here we are, just jumping into the river, and that can give you an idea. So like, it's just like knee deep. There's a few places where you almost get beach. There's another few places where it deepens a little bit, and you can kind of put your head under the water. Like maybe it's waist deep or something. So it's novel. You probably only come up here and do it a couple of times, and then you kind of get over it a little bit. But then you've got, you know, the beach. You can just people just sitting in the water and having a drink. People playing, like I said, ball sports and stuff in the water, out near the water. And then the beach itself actually has pretty good fishing there. Now I did mention before, it's quite safe for the kids. As you can see, there's quite a number of, like, you know, young, small kids there, very safely going down the river. It's not something you have to really worry about. Lots of eyes about, lots of people watching. However, the road, and I say road in inverted commas, which is the beach basically, that goes flying past there, is like, it's a pretty fast zone. Well, it's not supposed to be a fast zone. It is, but people do come screaming past there. So just be careful if the kids start wandering towards the beach, especially if they're trying to get to the waves, or if you're fishing down the beach and they're trying to get between you. There's a lot of cars coming through there. So that's just something to be mindful of. And also, just in terms of the driving, you should know that they do set up speed cameras, especially in spots like that where they just lower the speed limit for a little period. There's another one up near the shipwreck, which I'll go into next. But they love setting up there and just busting people for speeding. So make sure you stick to the speed limits, because they're out there trying to get you. And I also did get breathalyzed, which was quite a surprise. And I had sat here in the creek and had a couple of beers, you know, and I'd done it responsibly, and I was fine. But I did see a lot of people knocking back a lot of beers. So yeah, I don't know if everyone made it out there, but it's just something to be conscious of. At least at Easter, they definitely do breathalyze you on this island, and they definitely do speed bust you. And I did see a lot of it around here at Eli Creek. It can get a bit crowded, as you can see, but so it's good to try and get there a bit early and try and lodge a spot, set up your awning. Don't be too greedy, don't park sideways or something in the water, just boot in, so that more and more people can get a spot just like you. And you can kind of sit up there for a good number of hours and have a really, really, really enjoyable time. So here is the SS Mahino Shipwreck. You can't miss it. It's on this big stretch of the east coast, and you'll drive past it numerous times on the way to places. It's definitely worth getting out. It's definitely worth having a big explore of this amazing ship. It's amazing because of the contrast and the colours and the waves in the background and the blue sky and all the different types of rust. It's really amazing. Again, that road, lots of cars coming past, so just make sure the kids keep off that. Now, I went into the shipwreck, and then I later found out I wasn't supposed to, so just know that. I didn't realise, coming from the direction that I came from, I didn't see the sign. But anyway, lucky me. This ship was, I was reading up about it, so the ship was first built in Scotland in 1905, and it was one of the first turbine-driven steam engines, so it was quite like, you know, an achievement, this when they made it, and it was actually considered a luxury vessel at the time. And for most of its life after 1905, it was kind of just delivering passengers between Sydney and Auckland, like that was its go, like it's a New Zealand boat. But it ended up being a hospital ship during World War One, and then just before World War Two in 1935, the Kiwis sold the ship to the Japanese. And so it was getting towed up to Japan, up the coastline, and as it kind of came into the area near Fraser, it got hit by a huge cyclone, snapped the tow rope, and the SS Mahino, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, then drifted off and ended up beaching itself here on Gari Island. And then nothing happened for ages, and then I turned up. And that's its exotic history, I guess. But there are some good spots to get some family photos here. There's lots of people willing to take photos. You can get like kind of the buses will kind of stop here, so that can get a little bit crowded when that happens. But otherwise, it's such a big thing, and it's such an amazing thing to see. There's plenty of space around it. Nice big crab. So here we are at the Pinnacles. Now this is kind of like famous for its kind of coloured sands, coloured walls, as you can see up here into this kind of gully where it's a bit less sand duney, a bit less foresty, and you kind of get a different, I guess, biome. It's a very short and sweet visit, so that's why I threw it in here. It's worth it because you're going to drive past it on the way to something else. If it was a long way out of your way, it's probably not that worth it, because it's just not what I remember it being. I first came to Gari in 1988. This was in 2021 during COVID when I was here, and it just you can't kind of go up there. You can't go collect sand and put it in jars. Like, so you got the coloured levels of coloured levels of coloured sand in a jar, which is kind of a cool thing we did when we were kids. So that's kind of all not happening right now, but it's still well worth a look. It's still impressive. It's still something you should definitely do while you're on the island. It's just kind of like one of those things you like just do a big tick on your list of things to see, and then crack on after like 20 minutes, half an hour. We did find some pippies and crabs in the sand just at the front, so that kind of made it even better. Alright, so here we are at the Champagne Pools, and this is definitely something you have to go and do while you're on the island. It's kind of this rocky outcrop, as you can see. It was a bit of a walk to get down there, so that's something to keep in mind. There's not a heck of a lot of parking either, so that's another thing to keep in mind. But when you get down there, it's this really amazing little spot. So it works, I think, like small surf's fine. That in the background you can see there's what I classify as medium-sized surf. It was kind of the whole time we were there, it was onshore and sizable. Anything that's large surf I can't vouch for. And the water just kind of like smashes into the rocks there and just peels over, that creates that champagne effect. You can see look at all the fish in there as well, stacks of fish in there. The kids kind of just love standing on the rocks, as you can see, letting the foam just kind of whack into them, and they'll go, let it fly over their heads or go flying backwards into the water. So it's really quite awesome. There's lots of rocks, like rock shelves to explore around here. I didn't try fishing. It's quite exposed to the wind, so that's something to keep in mind. Like it's a very exposed spot if the weather's not optimal. It's chilly, yeah, it was still a lot of fun, and we spent a good couple of hours here just hanging on the rocks, jumping off the rocks, trying to get under and see the fish with the goggles, it's the only other problem, I guess, with it. It's a bit of a drive to get there from the southern and western camping spots to get across to there, especially during busy periods like Easter, where you have to go over all the headlands. Alright, so Lake Wobby. Now this is hidden in a deep gully behind a massive sand dune that stretches in from the sea, right where the sand kind of meets the forest. You know, down this big gully, that's where you're going to find Lake Wobby. It can be walked to from the beach side, which is what we've done here, or from the forest side in the distance there. And there's pros and cons to both. So the beach side is more on the way to other destinations, so you might be driving somewhere else, and then you can, or coming back from the Champagne pools or from Eli Creek or from the shipwreck or something, and you can just kind of stop and go up. So it's a bit more on the way, but you can find yourself, if you do that, racing the tide a little bit, because it's a fair walk in, like it's a good hike. And then on the way back, you can miss the tide. Whereas the forest, it's a bit more harder to kind of get to there, but it's a shorter walk overall, even though it's steeper, and you don't have to worry about the tide, and it's kind of on the way to Lake Mckenzie as well. So either way, it's definitely worth going to. As you can see here, it's not like the crystal clear water, it's a bit more of a murky place, but it's still lovely and fresh to kind of swim out on, and the catfish there, just like, they're all just kind of going in between your legs, and yeah, kind of almost nibbling your feet a little bit, and you can try and catch them, but we never got close. So the kids really loved that, and it was really nice just to go out and swim in this spot that's really secluded from the wind and everything as well. So if you've got a real breeze coming off the ocean, and the ocean's not a pleasant place to be, you can come here and get quite a pleasant gap from the wind. So we had stacks of fun here, just throwing balls. Obviously you just saw some of the kids coming down the sand dune. Now they absolutely recommend not doing that. So yeah, look, everyone was. I guess they got to say it, right? It's Australia. That's what they do. But as you'll see here, and there's a steeper section that I'll show you in a sec, it can be quite decent speeds. So we ended up coming here twice, and the first time we came here just to find out what it was about, and we came from the beach, and we got really quite nervous about the tide, and that's what ended up forcing us to do a U-turn and kind of head back down to the car, which, like I said, is quite a walk, and gun it out of there back to I think it's Oolong and out. Now we did see some people really struggling with the tide as well on the way back, and one bloke who had driven off the sand dune the wrong way and half collapsed his car, and it was getting lapsed. It was like hanging off a ledge basically and getting hit by waves, so it can happen. The second time we came down from the forest side, as I said, and that was basically because we were trying to get, I think, to the Champagne pools, and it was Easter, as I mentioned, and you kind of drive down the beach and you get to these headlands, and it all goes to one lane, and it goes over these headlands, and basically if there's traffic coming both ways, it just goes to absolute gridlock and no one gets anywhere, especially if you're trying to go in the morning, because you got people leaving, and so they're leaving with all of their caravans and trailers, and so they're coming down towards, back towards the ferry basically, and you're going up trying to go see all these spots, even Eli Creek, and you basically hit each other, and that people going up towing trailers and people coming back towing trailers, they can't do 3-point turns in one lane deep, 1 lane wide, bush track, so it becomes chaos. And so we went to Lake Wobby instead. And yeah, look, this was all fun and games until he got really hurt doing this, so at your own risk. I suggest not going head first. So most of the visitors to Gary Island, I suspect, camp, and therefore may think of little reason to go here, which is the Kingfisher resort, except to catch the ferry home. Now, it's still worth it all the same. In here is the Sandbar pub, and I'll walk you through this in a bit, but it's also, there's a beach here, and it's not like ocean facing, it's kind of like facing towards the lagoon basically, or to the wildlife park, marine wildlife park. So it's like, you're talking like long tidal flats, which are filled with fish and stingrays and crabs and that type of thing, and there's the big wharf there, and you can go fishing off that. There's heaps of fish off there as well, so it's really good for fishing. It's really good just to hang out on the beach and kind of do that sand flat stuff. And then there's this pub that's right there. So after you've been camping and kind of like basically just eating stove pasta and sausages for a bunch of days, you can come here and get a really nice meal and a good beer, a bit expensive. But there's also, as you saw, there's the pool, so the kids can swim in the pool. There's pool tables, there's TV with sport, music, other guests mingling about, and you don't have to be a resident or a visitor to the Kingfisher resort to be able to come here. So it's actually kind of well worth it. And in one of the days we ended up just driving up here just to see what it was like, and we ended up catching a bunch of garfish off the beach, saw some huge stingrays, caught some more fish. I can't remember what actually, but we caught a bunch of fish off the wharf as well. Then we came here and ended up hanging out till night and then driving back at night to Central Campground, which was an adventure all in itself. Central Station Campground, that is. So yeah, one of the things to do for sure. Alright, so if you are staying at Central Station Camping Ground, and I've got a full review of that on the channel as well, so go check that out, you'll see that I just traced a walk up to Basin Lake. Now we kind of found this by fluke. There was just one day, we'd just done 3 or 4 days in a row of just like zigzagging all around the island. They're not doing 500 k's while I was on the island, just so you know, in terms of petrol. And there's petrol station at Geelong that you can get some petrol out. So we decided to do a walk. So it starts off, you leave the campground, you can just walk out of the campground, you get here, it's all rainforesty, there's this creek going through the middle of the rainforest, there's plaques explaining a lot of the stuff, there's plenty of wildlife. I think we saw eels in here, we found a python at one point. It's very cool, and there's no matter how windy and horrible it is down at the beach, because it can get like that, it's an island. When you get here into the deeper into the forest, there's just no wind at all. It's all blocked off by these huge trees which are all around you. So this walk is definitely something to consider. Now it starts up down the bottom like here, and then you wind up all through this big forest, and you get basically the top of the mountain. I mean, a mountain in inverted commas, but like there's a mountain, a peak, and at the top of the peak there's just a giant crater. And inside the crater, there's just this huge lake with nobody else in it. And so we came up here, like in a very busy time of year, the campground was full. And we came up here and we were the only people there. And we just swam right out into the middle of the lake and just hanged out, just kind of floated there. And the kids played games in the water, and just had a little explore and adventure on our own. So it ended up being a really fun and enjoyable little day trip. It was good to do some exercise as well. And everyone enjoyed it. And my 6-year-old, he was struggling with the walk a little bit. We had a lot of active days before then, to be fair. But so it's not steep, it's definitely on the easy to medium side. It's definitely not steep, but it's a hike. So take under advisement. And I also just wanted to mention finally Orchid Beach, which is on the other side of the headland that has the champagne pools. And I want to mention it for 2 reasons. Well, one, it has great fishing. In that little gully you can see there, there's a huge gully that runs along, and then it's obviously, if you dare, it's got great surfing. My 10-year-old actually, when I wasn't looking, he snuck out there and tried to get a few, and then got chased in with another surfer by a big bait ball, so stacks of sharks out there. But the waves are really appealing, but yeah, people are surfing it, but it's a bit of risk. Yeah, so that's one reason, is the surfing and fishing. But the other reason is that the beach faces more or less directly north. So when the other beach, when the main kind of that big eastern side of the island is getting just hammered by southerlies, you drive over this peak and it looks like this, and it's just glassy. I mean, you can see the kind of a bit of wind coming off it there, but it's totally offshore, and it's just a bit of a paradise. So it's something to keep in mind if you are kind of not liking the state of the water and the wind on the other side of the island. So there we go, there you have it guys. That's 9 things to do while you're on Gari Island, up on the Fraser Coast. A spectacular experience, one we had a fantastic time doing. 11 days is about right, and I highly recommend that you take your family there. As you probably saw from the footage, we all had an absolute ball, and we were pretty disappointed to pull up into the ferry, head back to the mainland. In reality, I would love to go back, and I sure hope I do. I'm Chris Dead, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out my other videos, and until next time, I'm back on the road. Ew!